Okay, in correspondence, I just passed this around. And this also pertains to the stormwater issue, so I think we'll just deal with it all at the same time.
There, I have a correspondence.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Good thing I sent it to you.
I got one also.
Okay, the airport operations and land use seminar is in Stevens Point, I think. It's never usually.
That's where it usually is, yeah.
So anybody interested in going?
I might go, I haven't decided yet, I've gotta look at my vacation schedule, vacation schedule and stuff.
There's sign-up sheets on there too, the back one, so.
Okay,
If
so,
anybody wants it, they can have it. I got three of them, so.
that's in
Also-
Wisconsin Rapids this year. John.
Oh, it is, huh?
Yeah.
Where's that at? Is that further than Stevens Point or closer?
Just west.
West, huh? Well, I still gotta think about it either way, so.
Okay, if anybody's interested, there it is. The reports, operations, is there anything going on with that, Dave? Airport clubs, there's nobody here representing anybody, I don't think. Financials.
Well, under the operations, we have the crack filling coming on Wednesday.
I was just looking where to say that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So people have been notified, the club, I think Danny sent out some stuff, and there'll be a note posted for the airport closure on Wednesday. That's all I have on that. It's just a touch up and finish up and,
refill the cracks they didn't
Right.
fill.
yep,
Yes,
finish it up.
or half,
And Lucas is gonna be down here watching over them, he's gonna be inspecting it as they do it. If anybody's around, you can check it out too. With the airport being closed, they don't expect anybody to be around.
What'd they charge us for, what was our cost on that, do you know, Chris?
no,
Okay.
I don't have all the
I
bills,
just kinda curious.
but they did some extra too.
Oh.
Okay, you have the budget to act versus actual. And what's the total that we have, Chris? You know offhand?
Right now on the checking,
Yeah,
51,000, 51 something.
do you have anything else, Chris?
No, not here.
Okay,
Do you have the new budget also?
yes, that'll be the
Okay.
last item.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, yep.
So, discuss and possibly take action on the stormwater system issues at 88 Charlie and fees from the village. As you know, Chris sent out a letter splitting up the cost amongst all hangar owners for the stormwater fees being charged by the village. We have an opportunity supposedly to fill out a form, get it cut in half, to get credit for half of it. But you need an engineer to fill out the form.
Would that be from here on out, or is that for just 1 year, or?
Well, that,
That bill you got?
No, for the cut in half and the fees.
if we were to get it, it would be from there on out.
No,
Yeah.
but we'd still owe what we have right now.
Not sure,
Okay.
knowing the village probably.
But if they were able to cut in half, then we would get a credit back for something, if
Correct.
that would follow through.
If we fill it out and they accept it.
Right.
So the only person that has filled one out is John Maring, and he had to hire an engineer to fill out the paperwork. They don't know how to fill it out. MSA will not tell us how to fill it out. Talked to Lucas to reach out to MSA to ask what we had to do for that. And off the record, he said, the person he talked to from MSA said the only surface that qualifies for the credit is the gravel driveway by the cemetery. That everything else would not qualify for the credit. Now, they did their basis of stormwater runoff off of maps, according, he feels that way, and I do also. Last week, we had 5 inches of rain.
Yeah, I was out here.
There was no water, there was one little puddle standing in the village, on the village side of the road, in a depression in the road. Everything else was by your hand.
Yeah.
Right here.
With 3.5 inches, you were flooded pretty bad. When we had another 1.5 inches, it had actually gone down by you.
That's Chris Lathrop's thing, which is next to David's.
And this is from spring.
Yeah, that's what he sent me.
With snow melt.
What?
So the only way water goes from the airport to the village is when it gets high enough to get over the road. The water runs from the village onto the airport property. They're claiming the culvert that's up going toward the standard process building drains from the town to the village, which it does. Except, there's a French drain about 20 feet away from the culvert. It's about a foot lower than the culvert. There is no water going through that culvert.
No.
So everything they're saying to us is just a crock, but because they're a village and they have a stormwater utility, they can charge it. So I talked to a friend of mine on Blue Spring Lake that wrote some of the laws with the DNR, and he told me to call the Public Service Commission, which leads to this letter that I showed you guys. But we would still have to do this right, we would still have to have, probably we would have to do our own engineering, first of all, to prove that the water is running from the village onto the airport and not leaving the airport. I'm gonna talk to him further and see what exactly we have to do. But if you look at the informal complaint process, you have a statement of the issues, the facts necessary to an understanding of the issues, a list of reasons why the PSC should research your complaint, and then the remedy which you're seeking from the PSC. And they understand, they said they understand what we're going through, and if we made an informal complaint, they would probably look at it. But we have to probably get our own engineering report first, which was one of the things on the petition. So this ties into the next number also, number 2, to discuss the updates on the petition, which they are accepting bids now for these different projects that we had in mind. All of this takes away from us wanting to build another T-hanger. It puts we have to put all our resources into getting this stormwater update first. And I know nobody likes it except the village. And it's crooked as hell, but there's nothing else we can do other than follow legal channels like we are.
Just a suggestion, do you have contour maps showing the land?
We do have them.
I'm sorry?
We do.
I mean, cause
Doesn't matter.
septic fact, water's gonna run downhill, if you can just show that.
Doesn't matter.
No, Chris, and that's from what I read, on some of the stormwater stuff, the stormwater is greater than just the surface, it's subterranean water also. So if it's going into French drains or in the sand, it could be going in that direction, and that's partially what they're talking about. But we still need an engineer to figure that out. Is the soil type the type that's letting it flow in that direction or not? And I don't know if Lucas can look at the soil types and make a quick determination that, yeah, probably is, or no, it's probably not. If it was a heavy clay soil, it wouldn't be going anywhere. But this is all relatively sandy out here, so it,
But that's not even what at this point, it's now in the village property. Well, it doesn't have to run anywhere. It's now, within the village limits.
Right.
Well, now it has to run nowhere. It's now in the village limits. So you can say that you've got Lower Spring Lake here, and there's not a damn drop draining into the village. It doesn't matter. This is now considered the village, since it's been annexed. So I don't care shit where it drains to. That doesn't matter. If this was the town, like it was originally before the annexation, then you know what I mean? The only lake that we have to stand on is have it reduced at this point. It's now considered village.
yeah.
So it doesn't really matter, other than that we know where it's coming from and that we know it's not draining into the village. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where you're.
Well, I was looking at it from their standpoint though, that they're looking at the airport as being an entity just like another business, and the water's coming off of our property on to some other part, and they're billing us for it. Now, if the water was staying on here entirely at the airport, then there'd be no problem. But if it's leaving the airport,
No,
No.
doesn't matter. It's considered village property. They can charge you for it. It doesn't matter if it's draining or not draining. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It
if we
doesn't
had
matter
any
if we
glossing,
pull it up or if we drain it all off. It doesn't matter.
And they can do it under the reasoning that
The
they
law
have
says
to
they can do
pay for their improvements, for their storm sewers and whatever, even though none of them were incurred. We were not in the village when they did that.
We know it doesn't drain into the old village property. We know that, but there's nothing you can do about it because it's now village property.
but how do you know it doesn't drain into the,
Even if it does, it doesn't matter. If it does
It's
or
not a
doesn't.
matter of draining, it's like my yard at
Doesn't
home,
matter.
I'm in the village. And when it rains in my yard is in the village.
and they aren't charging you for stormwater?
Everybody gets charged. That's what I'm saying. Everybody gets charged.
Everybody
charged.
gets charged for it.
So
Isn't-
we're gonna
isn't
get
it-
charged also.
And I
That's
think
why
our
we're
only
getting
hope
charged,
here
'cause
would
they
be to
can.
try to get it reduced, because when it rains on the airport, it's raining in the village.
What do you get charged per quarter?
I don't
I
remember.
couldn't tell you. It's just part of the bill. I don't know. I don't look that
It's
close.
just all in on the same water
Because
bill.
that is supposedly what this is based on, is a single residence, a single family residence.
Per each hangar.
Well, it must be much higher because
Correct.
our stormwater sewer charge is nothing at all like that.
Open up your bill I just gave you and it's gonna tell you what they based it on. It's on acreage.
How many parcels are there connected with the airport?
That we're getting charged for is 2.
Right, but how many parcels are there altogether? Because I don't think they're charging for vacant land. I think they're just charging for 2 parcels,
Charging for 2 parcels.
as opposed to whatever the total is.
They're charging for acreage.
Which one is it?
They're charging by parcel. I asked that question
Yeah,
of
parcel.
the clerk.
1710516.
But it's based on how many acres in the parcel.
2221002.
That very well could be, yeah.
No, that's what it is. It's
31 acres.
Which is 3.1 acres. And then the second one they're charging for, another parcel number is 5.1, which is a total of 8.2 acres.
2 different parcels.
Yeah.
It's 2 parcels.
Right. So any idea how many parcels there are associated with the airport?
You know, I don't know, what total are.
Probably 8.
Yeah,
You got the Outlaw, you got Calkins, you got the.
Well, the stuff in the town doesn't matter. And there's
No.
3 parcels.
Right.
right.
I think 3 parcels in the town.
This one over here, is that?
And that would be one.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these are one parcel that are split in 2 or 3 pieces. So,
So it's really a similar concept, if I understand what you're saying. It's a similar concept to taxes we pay for schools or whatever, even if I don't have children, I still pay taxes to support the schools. I think this This is to pay stormwater charges to support the utility.
Sort of, but at the tune of $10,000 a year, that's a lot of money.
No, I don't know where that number comes from, but.
It's made up by, it's based on a single-family unit, and MSA is doing all the engineering on that.
Mm.
And Chris, did you look at that thing that he wanted us to fill out
From the village
or no? Yeah.
originally,
Did you ever see the form we have to fill out?
yes,
And it's not something that you.
no. No, I was originally told, well, it's easy, you can do it yourself. It's like, no, you can't. Not a chance. I can't.
So anyway, all we can do is, first of all, get an engineering stormwater report that we paid for, and work with whatever, like the Public Service Commission, if that helps us to get it reduced, or if our engineering thing gets it reduced. I don't think we can go to the Public Service Commission until we fill out that form, because they're gonna say, well, you have that opportunity to do that.
Could you give them the form?
Do what?
Have them fill it out?
It has to be filled out by an engineer.
Oh, okay.
Do you guys know any engineering firms that we would
Well,
work with?
that's what's going through with the petition right now, is coming up with engineering firms to work with a stormwater, with all that stuff, the new hangar, the wildlife study, and one firm isn't gonna do everything.
Yeah, I know that sometimes some of it
So
out,
I believe Lucas told me the cutoff date was the 27th of October. And he had received a couple of inquiries to do part of the wanted part of the job, so. So that's, I don't know if you have anybody else has anything else to say about this. I am pretty much talked out about it.
Well, I think we need to go ahead and get an engineering firm and make a decision whether, have them explain to us the whole stormwater situation and where is our water going.
Or what?
Where is our water going, with an engineer telling us where it's going, so we know, is it staying here, or is it going over there, or what's going on? I want a clear answer to that from an engineering firm.
That's still not gonna change $10,000.
That doesn't, that's not gonna change anything.
Well,
It will give us
For
somewhere to
right
start
now,
with, for the commission.
it gives us somewhere to start.
It gives you someplace to start, but it's not
Right.
gonna change.
And we could get them to fill out that form after they do the study,
If they, that way, that would help, yes.
and then see if they would reduce it. If they don't reduce it, then our next option is to go to the Public Service Commission.
Right. But we have to start with the engineer though.
We have to start
I
with.
believe that Scott Hallbecker has to sign off on it, excuse me, sign off in the M.
Who's he?
The
Public
head of the
Works.
Department of Public Works in the village.
Okay.
And for
He seemed
water to
pretty
run,
cooperative when you first talked to him, right?
Excuse me?
He seemed pretty cooperative when you first talked to him about this, it
Yeah, but-
seems, and,
And,
Told you
but
what
you
you had
have,
to do and
we have to
stuff.
have the documentation on paper.
Yeah.
yeah.
and for water to run through that culvert that MSA said is pouring into the village, we'd have to have 4 feet of water down here before anything would get up there. And then it isn't gonna matter.
Well, then we need to make a motion to,
We can't do anything till they come up with the engineering.
okay, so that's what we're waiting for right now.
That's what we're
All right.
waiting for. This isn't gonna be a fast process,
I know, that's what takes time,
and we're dealing with the state and engineering firms and people that get paid by the hour that wanna get paid. Did you have any questions, Mark?
No, I'm just learning like you are.
No?
It's a disappointing situation. I think the founders of this airport are probably turning over in their graves.
Mm-hmm.
Probably right.
It's, we're not used to paying for things we don't get. I was surprised to find that even the cemetery over here has been paying for stormwater. There's, you'd have to carry it up the hill in order to get it to flow north or south. John Shepherd told me that if we find out a way not to get out of it, he'd like to find a way too.
And any water that runs off from the cemetery runs right down to the creek.
It certainly doesn't go into
No.
the village, I mean. Of course, that has been part of the village, the cemetery.
Correct. So. And we felt that the way we split up the fees was the most fair to everybody. I understand, like has been said many times, nobody wants to pay the extra money and not get something for it.
Actually, pardon me for interrupting, but these extra fees could somewhat damage the value of the hangars and reduce the taxes collectible by the village. Because if we have to pay fees, the hangar certainly isn't worth as much as it was before.
Keep in mind that the goal of the annexation was to close the airport.
Oh, I know it is.
So anything that could work against the airport, the village is all for. So anybody else got anything about that? Danny?
I know I'm due to the whole history of this place and everything, but I do own 2 hangars here, and I'm, from my point of view, and I can only speak for myself, $150 a year additional, what is that, $10, $12 a month is not gonna kill me. And for me, I don't think it's worth paying a lawyer, paying whatever, all the gray hair we're gonna get. Just go forward and make the assessment annually and get it over with.
If somebody were to come here brand new, and you told them that for $400 they could build a hangar here and keep it here, they'd probably be very happy. But when somebody's used to paying $200 and now you have to pay $400, you don't like it quite as much.
I understand.
And what they can do is they can sell their hangar and there'll be somebody lined up to buy it. Danny bought too.
Yeah.
And I mean, you go to Fort Atkinson, you're gonna have the same thing, you're gonna go anywhere. I mean, I agree that, you know, we're all upset with how everything went down, but at the end of the day, at this point, if that's the fee, because I know having gone through the development, you know, I've got $18,000 into a stormwater thing for 6 acres. So, you know, with the Village of Wales, by the time you're done with all the, you know, the fees and all that kind of stuff. So it just takes a lot of money to go through, and unless we can get it reduced with a guarantee, and I don't see how we could. So I kind of agree with Danny. I just say, just take the bill, and, because I mean, sounds like the cemetery's had it for years,
That's what I was told.
so.
I'm a little curious, you said all the land on the airport is not included in that? Is that correct?
All of the land, you are correct, is not included. It's just the 2 parcels that are
They'd have impermeable surfaces on them.
hangars, buildings and
Hangars,
hangars.
road, taxiways, anything that's paved over or has a building on it.
It says 8.2 acres. Is there really that much of taxiway?
And hangars.
Hell, tear them out, go back to grass. You won't have to repave them either.
What do you do with the hangars?
No, what I'm saying is tear out the taxiways, if you're getting billed that much for it.
You know, what these guys have said about just paying it, we have it on the agenda to talk about, we have 2 hangar owners in the audience out there that are 3 that are even interested in it out of 50 hangar owners. If they were worried about their extra 150 a year, you'd think they'd be here.
Did they even know about it? You guys don't
They
send out
knew
notice.
what's going on.
I got a bill.
No, notice of this meeting. Nobody knows about this meeting, Frank.
It's posted somewhere, like it's supposed to be.
Posted in 3 posting places.
Yeah.
Yes. Would it be nice to send out an email to the people involved?
You guys have something for the Palmyra Flying Club, right? Facebook or something on the computer?
I don't know, I'm not in the Palmyra Flying Club. Dave might be able to answer that.
Do members of the Palmyra Flying Club have a means of communication through, like they can go in there on a computer, right, and bring up the weather? Do they have anything that will bring up current items going on with the airport?
Well, there is a Facebook page, I'm not really involved in that. But Rick, you are a member of the PFC.
No, I haven't paid dues for 2 years. I support you guys, I help you out on Father's Day, but I haven't paid dues ever since you raised the rates to 150 a year or whatever.
Yeah, we haven't raised them.
They unraised them, that's why I rejoined.
No, that's why I did
I'm cheaper
join.
than you, Rick.
Now, unfortunately, even if 50 people would have shown up, it's still the same thing, still the same result. It's fees that are attached from the village out. There's, you can write, because you have a hangar here, you can write a letter to MSA or whatever to complain about that, or to the village, just like anybody else. So Chris sent the information out, and, if a person wants to, they can respond to the village themselves.
Okay. What I come tonight was to ask the question of how this was figured out to divide it up. You said it's on the fees for the taxiway area and the hangar area, is that correct?
Yes.
Well, the taxiway is common area, and that's used by more than just hangar owners. We have people fly in there.
We have no way of collecting on that though. So we divided it by building owners.
Okay, what if there wasn't any buildings here? And it was just a public municipal airport as it is?
It's not, so I don't know. I don't know
Okay.
what the answer
Well,
to that.
I guess my point is, that's a common area. And it's just like snowplow removal, it's an expense. I'm just saying, it's
I
a
know what
common
Rick's
area.
getting at is that since the taxiway, the road, and everything else is used by anybody and everybody, that should be paid for by the airport. And then all the individual hangar owners should be paying for whatever their portion is for their square footage of impermeable surface.
I agree.
But,
So if the airport's gonna pay for that, we're gonna raise the fees.
right, the money's come from
It's gonna
somewhere, so
come
it's gonna
out-
come out of the hangar's people anyhow,
Right.
one way or the other.
Or the PFC, since they sell fuel and get fuel from outsiders that also come in, because there's a lot more members buying fuel than just hangar
Well,
owners.
that's getting out of
What's
the meeting here, let's get on with this meeting and stay on topic here. I don't care what the PFC does with their fuel or doesn't do with it.
Excuse me, can I ask a question? What would prevent them if we go ahead and pay this? What would prevent them to include the rest of the airport next year? If they say, okay, this worked good for us, let's do it again, we'll get another 10, 20,000 off the rest of the airport.
I don't know.
Well, they have guidelines they have to follow, I'm sure.
It has
They
to
they
do
would
with
have done that already if they could.
It has to do with permanent and non-permanent services.
Pardon?
It has to do with permanent and non-permanent surfaces.
So let's get back to where we were
Such as
here.
big
Dave, I take it you would just soon pay
Yeah.
and not waste money on engineering firms and use that for something else. Ed, what do you think it's gonna cost, for engineering to get
I
this
have
figured
no
out?
idea.
So we're getting another, well, could we
I
do this
can
though?
I can get a price when we find somebody.
Yeah, I said, let's get a price before we make any decisions on this, let's get an estimate and then after that, let's decide what we wanna do.
But
Because
that's not even a decision we have to make, the town is putting forth that.
Isn't that part of the, what we petitioned for though?
Was for a stormwater survey. Right.
So, it's only
Filling
for
out
some,
that form would just be part of that survey.
yeah, it's just
Right.
like,
that form should be filled out, it doesn't cost us anything, as long as the engineering firm is willing to do it along with the other study.
Well, it'll cost us 5% of it,
that's what I'm saying, it's the cost percentage of it.
Mm-hmm.
because the rest is part of the entitlement program.
All right, well, we'll have to figure out what 5% is gonna be then. We have to get an estimate of
Well,
what's this engineering gonna cost and all.
and I won't know until we pick an engineer.
And that's fine, then let's move on with getting an engineer picked out and see what they
And we
say.
should know by the January meeting.
And then in January, we can make a decision whether we're gonna go ahead and spend the money or not.
Ed, is there an engineer that does town engineering for the town probably? That you guys
We don't have one on staff. I have to meet with one for this road project I'm working on, but
You do have a name of one anyway.
I do have a name of one. And in fact, I have the name of two, but one of them is not very close to here, but he worked with the town of Oakland and they liked him, so he obviously comes down here. So, okay, we've kicked that around enough then?
Excuse me, just one other question I had. What was the math involved in dividing up this fee? Because I tried to run some numbers and I couldn't figure out what the math was involved.
It was a total number divided by the hangar owners and the T hangars and all the buildings divided.
All right, well, that only came up with 17, and there's certainly more than 17 hangars.
There's 50-some.
17
Yeah, if I take the 2579,
times 4,
okay, so this is an annual fee, even though it was a quarterly
that's a
bill?
quarterly, just like it's the same as your house. Quarterly bill, that was times 4, divided for the, it says right on your thing for the year. If you look on your bill,
Well, I was looking at this, and it indicate that that's an annual thing, and even on the letter, it appears that's a quarterly bill.
don't you have, don't you get a quarterly bill at home?
Yeah, but
Doesn't it
I'm,
look just like the one you have in your hand?
yeah,
Okay.
but that's just it, when I
Your
ran the,
bill quarterly, your bill for the year, as it says in your letter, is $151.72.
okay, so you took this bill times 4.
Correct?
Okay, that's what I was asking,
Yes,
okay.
correct.
But even though we don't know what the other 3 bills are,
Right there, times 4.
it's always gonna be the
That's
same?
what I was told.
Okay, all right, that's what I was asking, okay.
And that was part of the confusion too, was it a quarterly bill for $151 or was that the annual?
Yeah, because it wasn't real clear on that, looking this over and reading the different letters, because the letter from the village was quarterly. So that's where I was concerned, or confused with.
Okay, discuss any updates on the petition, we've talked about that, that's where that, 27th, I believe, was the cutoff date of October to get the bids on that. Now, the 2020 budget. You wanna go over this, Chris? Or Peggy, or?
You want me to read it for you?
I was gonna say, where they have any questions, if anybody have any questions on it.
Would you like it read?
Did that include
I don't
did
necessarily-
that include the heavy maintenance on the tractor that's
Yes.
coming up?
Yes.
Okay.
That is figured in.
That's repairs, down here, 4,200. Do you want me to start from the top, and if you have a question about something, you can ask?
Sure.
T-hanger, this is income. T-hanger leases, 12,420. Stormwater utility, 11,000. Tie-down leases, 180. Flying club rent, $1. Land rental, 2,400. Hangar area lease, $11,536. For expenses, mileage, $500. Liability insurance, $4,000. Legal and accounting, $5,000. Postage, $200. Office supplies, $500. Gas heat, $900. Hangar electric, $1,000. Stormwater sewer bill, $11,000. Airport equipment repairs, $4,200. Is that enough to cover your big repair?
Should be.
Shop expenses, $500. Oil and lubes, that's gasoline and diesel fuel, $2,000. Airport maintenance repairs, $600. Miscellaneous and future improvements, $7,137.
Okay, let me ask you this, back up to legal and accounting,
Oh, okay, let me find it.
6032.
Okay,
What did we spend so far in 2019?
it should be on your
Okay,
other sheet.
yeah. I was just wondering if we should allow more for this coming up year because of this stormwater stuff.
The stormwater would be in the, well,
I
petition
mean,
the state for.
Huh?
That's what would be petition the state for. That's not in the, that's not in the legal.
It's not gonna, where's it gonna fall? What
The
category?
legal is what we spent was, most of it was with, actually with the hangar deals.
Okay. I just wanna make sure we budgeted somewhere for the potential for the extra engineering and any legal stuff with that coming up.
That's that's what you petitioned the state,
Okay,
And that would fall under miscellaneous.
and that would be done 5% and not the full
all right.
100%.
And the legal, that's where we were trying to figure out how much it would cost in fees and applications and permits to
Mhm.
build a hangar.
All right.
Which we still don't know.
Yeah, which we still don't have an idea.
Well, the budget looks good to me. I think I should make a motion that we accept the way it is and enter it into the books for 2020.
I'll second it.
Oh, Dave was gonna say
Do
something.
you think that's gonna be enough to, cause I think we're gonna have to send the grasshopper in, cause we're having an overheating issue.
Still, guys,
Cause we've actually been babying that thing, something seems to be wrong with it. And
Well, we can
I've
take
tried
it.
For
everything.
right now, you can leave it at that.
If we can leave that, we can make an amendment later,
Okay,
Yeah.
so.
okay.
Plus, there's the carryover in the checkbook.
All right, Frank.
Okay, we have a motion, and Frank seconded it. Is there any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the budget as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The budget passes the way it was proposed. And that will be presented to the town when we do our budget hearings. I think that set the next meeting date. So what do we have in January? January 6th? Or January 20th?
Both are okay with me.
Okay with me, either one.
When are you coming back, Danny?
He won't be here.
April.
As of right now, I don't have a problem with either date. Dave,
I do not have a problem, as of now.
pick a date, John.
The 6th,
Works for me.
that's a Monday, right?
Yep. Okay, and I'll send you a notice, Dan. You can get back to everybody. If anybody has anything, don't hesitate to call me or Dan to get it on the agenda. I don't have a problem with anything you guys wanna put on there. It's your airport. It's not really on the agenda, but is there any way you wanna notice it to everybody?
No?
No, I don't, I think we should just leave it the way it is with the 3 legal closings where you're supposed to put them, and that's it. Because if we leave somebody out there and be pissing and moaning about it, or people's addresses change or all that hassle, I say just leave it,
How do you notify the residents of the town?
We post it.
How does the village notify folks in
They
this?
post
Same thing, they posted.
They posted at the post office, the village does.
It's like when we first started fighting the sanitation, we asked everybody, and nobody showed up then, even when we did ask them. So they didn't even fight for it, so.
I think you're unique, though. The airport is made up of people that don't live in the village. The notice, when did your notice just go up about this meeting tonight?
Friday.
Friday. So if they weren't out here in those 3 days, they didn't know about the meeting, even if they.
It's a legal posting, and if.
I know it's legal, but what is transparency nowadays?
Right,
People-
Rick, but if I posted it a week ahead before the meeting, and then John turns around and says, you know what, I think this should be on there. Okay, now we have to do an amendment and change everything. And then Dave says, I want this on there.
I just think that the flying club, as a
I think
courtesy,
you better
it
end this
to
meeting
its
before we
members.
start saying too much. Yeah, we got the agenda.
yeah, we're off the agenda again.
All right,
Move
You
to
don't
adjourn.
want anybody to talk?
I'll second it.
I guess.
It could just be
all in
an
favor
email
of
list.
adjourning?
Aye.
Hi,
You can talk about whatever you want.
all right, Chris, you gonna be around for a couple minutes, let me see if I got small bills.
Yes, I gotta get Dave a copy.
Okay.
Anyway.